Hello everybody, a very sick Jonk 12 back on the TV couch to talk all things The Flash. Now of course I'm here to review The Flash Season 3 Episode 3 titled Magenta. And of course if you've not gone out of your way to check it out, this review may contain spoilers. But that being said, let's get into the latest episode of CW's The Flash. First off, before I say anything, I want to mention real quickly that in the long scheme of things, this episode is definitely, in my opinion, the first of possibly many not that great episodes of The Flash. Now, for me personally, I'm a hardcore fan of this series. I've loved it ever since season 1. It's such a great show. However, I am not a typical fan who just loves everything a show or movie or any other kind of creative force throws at me. I do have criticism for most things that I love, and when it comes to the show, I do love when they give us great episodes, and I will critique when they give us shitty episodes. And this one was not a great episode. In my personal opinion, this is the first of possible many in this season that are just not up to par to what I feel like the show is really up for, and I was just not a fan of this particular episode. First off, let me talk about something that I really sorely missed out on talking about in my previous Flash review, and that is, of course, the newest addition to the CW Flashverse, and that is, of course, Tom Felton. Yes, Malfoy himself has joined the Flashverse, and in my last review, we were introduced to his character. Unfortunately, I didn't talk about him at all. Even though I put him in the fucking thumbnail like an idiot, I completely missed out on talking about him. So before I talk about everything else that's new about this episode, let me discuss his character. Now, first off, on one hand, I love the idea of him joining the show. I think Tom Felton's a good, capable actor, and I feel like he's really great at being antagonistic, if that's even a term to use, and I think he really gels well with the rest of the cast. Even though he's mostly been working with Joe and Barry, I feel like he's killing it, and he's good, and his performance and presence is amazing. Unfortunately, on the other hand, I feel like he's horribly miscast. I feel like, in general, going into this new season, the CW Flash writers seem to not really know what to do with the main villain. We have gotten the Rival, and now we have Dr. Alchemy. Rival, based off what we've seen already, he is not up to snuff to really do anything capable as a main antagonist. And then you have Dr. Alchemy, who I really feel like is just the most misused villain that they can put in this series. I feel like, and I'll talk about this later, I feel like they should have went with a more capable villain. But with that being said and done, Tom Felton, even though he's mostly known for being a villainous-esque character for his in his work in the Harry Potter series, I feel like it would have been more suitable to have him be a more used-full villain. You know, he's kind of antagonist. He's kind of against Barry, but he's a good guy at the end of the day. He works for this for the Central City Police Department. He is in charge of this forensic science lab. He is a good guy. However, he doesn't trust Barry, and he has things against him. So, on one point, I love the fact that he's part of the show. I like his presence, his acting, his performance. All of that is on point. I just wish they could have given him something to really sink his teeth in and actually make a mark on the series. But and also, I really hope, and I kind of feel like they're kind of going in this route, which is making him a good guy and just making him part of the Team Flash, which could turn out being a good idea at the end of the season. At this point, I'm not buying it. But with that being said, that's pretty much all my thoughts on Tom Felton. I like him. I think he's a great addition to the series. I just wish he was playing a bigger role. But with that being said and done, let's get into the actual episode itself. We got our new villain, Magenta. She has daddy issues. And that's pretty much the main point of view of this episode, daddy issues. We got Harrison Wells from Earth 2 coming back with his infamous daughter, Jessie Quick, who has gathered her speedster abilities from the comics. And that's pretty much the big scope of the episode. It's pretty much them coming in and discussing the fact that they don't trust each other. They have problems with the fact that Jessie has these powers and whatever. And I might be the only one on this, but I have to be blunt in my critique on this. I don't like the fact that Tom Cavanagh and the character Jessie Quick came back. Look, I love Tom Cavanagh. For me personally, Tom Cavanagh is what made Flash Season 1 as great as it was. If you didn't have Tom Cavanagh playing both the mentor figure in Harrison Wells and the main antagonist as the man in yellow, the reverse Flash, so to speak, I really feel like that first season would have never kickstart the shows that we have now. It would not have been as great. The Flash could have just been another campy, cheesy-ass show that would have been canceled after the first season. But it was because of Tom Cavanagh, his performance, and the way he was used by the writers. However, I feel like ever since the end of Season 1, and every single episode with Season 2, and leading into this one, they have made his character worse and worse and worse, and he's just unwatchable at this point in time. I love Tom Cavanagh, and I love his role on this universe, but just because he was so good in Season 1 doesn't mean you have to make him a staple CW. Doesn't mean you have to make him a part of the Flash family. I just feel like it's very much, if you're not going to write good material for him, don't bring him back at all. You know, it's the same problem I had with Manu Bennett on Arrowverse. He was a great staple of the show, and they tried to bring him back for like one-off episodes in Season 3, and it just did not work. They were trying to support the story of Thea and her becoming a warrior / hero, so to speak. It did not work. And now they're doing the same thing with Jesse, and I'm just not buying into it. Maybe it'll work out in the long run once again, because the Flash writers are definitely a lot more capable than the Arrow writers, but it just doesn't work out in my opinion. But with that being said, Jesse Quick getting speed powers, it was inevitable. I mean, we knew this from the Season 2 episodes when she was attacked and all that stuff, so it was always going to happen, plus her comic book counterpart, and I really don't care. I said this in my Season 2 reviews, along with Patty, they were just characters I did not care for in the season, and just because they brought her back with powers doesn't mean I automatically like the character now, so at the end of the day, I still don't care about them, their characters, and their stories. So that's pretty much all I can say on that. And seeing as though I continue to talk mostly negative stuff, let's keep this ball rolling with more negativity. Now, overall, the villain Magenta, I really did not like. I thought it was such a horrendous villain. Her story, how she's used, her powers, it was so hacky. I think the villain, this possibly, and I could be overreaching on this one, but this could possibly be one of the worst villains we've gotten on the show so far. She was just god-awful. She felt like less of a Flash villain and more like a villain you would expect on like a Nickelodeon TV movie, like a straight-to-video like TV movie villain. That's what she is. She basically, like, if like Cartoon Network was going to do like another live-action Ben 10 movie, she would be in that movie. I just did not buy into it. She sucked. It was horrendous. I did not like the main villain at all, and I guess that's pretty much it. That's my main negatives for this episode. Moving off of that, my main positives, other than Tom Felton, Barry and Iris' relationship, really goofy and cheesy, but CW is good on cheesy relationship statuses, so it pretty much works hand in hand, and I like the fact that CW, The Flash, is moving forward with the Barry Iris stuff because it was something we all knew was going to come. It was something that we all needed. It's something that we want, and I feel like those characters work so well together. To have them separate is just a waste of time. So the fact that they're going full straight ahead with it is always good. And plus, it's always, like, as a comic book reader, it's always fun to see what it's like to be a superhero and having your main life be supported with being a superhero, and what's it like to do simplistic things like going on a date. Like, how do you go on a date if you're like the Flash or Superman or Batman, where it's like by the time the sun goes down you got to go off and be a hero, you know? And I feel like it's always interesting to have those moments. Secondly to that has to be Wally West's storyline. I like the fact that even though Alchemy is the main villain and he's kind of just making metahumans out of nowhere for no reason, I like the fact that characters from Flashpoint still have this connection to that timeline, and they're just like they're biting at the chance of being what they used to be, and I like that they're taking that approach with Wally. I feel like Wally, even though at the end of the day he's not the comic book counterpart I would want him to be, whether it be his version in the comics or his version in the cartoon series, Keenan has done a great job as that character, and he's becoming a staple on the show, and I love what he's doing this season. And his story arc in this episode, I feel like will go far with the rest of the season. It was really good and on point. And plus, his talks with Joe are always classic. I love them. They were great. And with that being said and done, that's pretty much the main positives I had for this episode. Wasn't a big fan of this episode at all. The main villain sucked. Harrison Wells and Jesse Quick coming back was really just a nuisance. I don't feel like they need to be on the show anymore. I just didn't care for them. And the villain, I just don't like that villain. It sucked. But at least we have Tom Felton. Tom Felton, he was good. Keep doing what you're doing, dude, because you were awesome. But with that being said and done, let's get to my final verdict. My final verdict for this episode of The Flash has to be a solid 6 out of 10. It was a little above average, but just still average. It was a whatever episode. It was a very classic CW villain of the week episode. I really just didn't care for it. However, with that being said, let me talk about the main villain. Now, Alchemy is proving himself to be the main villain of the series, and I'm not a big fan of that. Now, we've been hinted with the promos, spoilers all around with the promos, that next week we'll be getting Mirror Master, a character that I'm pretty sure a lot of fan people out there, fanboys, whatever, been wanting this. This is a fan favorite character from the comics. Mirror Master is finally showing up, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm very suspect about it. I'm very divisive on it, because as much as I want Mirror Master to show up finally, I just don't like the idea of him being a villain of the week. Mirror Master is a great villain. I feel like they could have scrapped Alchemy, scrapped Rival, and just made Mirror Master the main villain of the season. It's kind of like what they did with Weather Wizard. It's like there's so many possibilities with that character that you can do with an entire season that you just scrap it for like a one-off episode. And I feel like that's what they're doing next episode with Mirror Master. I don't like that idea. They could have done so much with that character, and I feel like instead of having Alchemy be the main villain, which is like a whatever villain, you could have Mirror Master, a legitimate fan favorite character, be the main villain of the season. So that's kind of just my thoughts on next week's episode, and my majority of my personal thoughts on the main villain of the season. But with that being said and done, my final verdict stands as a 6 out of 10. Let me know what you personally think in the comment section below. Once again, sorry I'm sick this week. It's just, that's the way the ball is going to be rolling for the rest of these DC videos, but hopefully you enjoy regardless. With that being said, down, comment below. Let me know what you personally think about my personal thoughts and my review of The Flash Season 3, Episode 3, titled Magenta. And with that being said and done, shameless plug time! Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, @Jox12. Subscribe to my channel if you've not done so already, and hope you guys enjoyed. And this has been Jox12.